Well, this is Fort William, and a gay, dreary West Highland morning it is, and you might wonder why I'm walking along the central reservation of a busy motor road. Well, the reason is that this used to be a railway line. In fact, I'm almost at the terminal of the West Highland Railway, which was right there. But in 1975, the railway line ended east of the town. The reason being that the people had been cut off from the seaway for about 80 years. And I'm going to go back there, look at the new station, and go 40 miles west to Mallig. But I'm not getting in the train. I'm going for a walk.
At the height of our season, something like 1,000 passengers per day moving about using our rail system.
And how about the observation cars? I was delighted to see 2 in the train.
For the last 3 years, we ran with 1. It was very successful to the extent we got a new area manager and he decided to put 2 on. He's also got couriers dressed in fine Mackenzie tartan, and you can have a dram or a cup of coffee while you listen to the commentary.
Oh, that sounds good.
We have 11 stations between here and Mallig. All at one time are fully staffed with signalmen, porters and whatnot. But today we have only 2 of these stations, Glenfin and Arathig.
Well, Station Master Alec MacDonald is happy about the way things are going in the Mallig line, and that's reassuring. Fort William was the first terminus of the West Highland line, and when the first tourists began arriving by train in August 1894, they started off a new craze, climbing Ben Nevis, nearly 4,500 feet and right behind the town. It was the time of the railway mania, and builders began looking at the possibility of extending the line to the summit, where they would build a big hotel. I'm out to enjoy a historical ramble, tracing the evolution of transport, because the canals came before the railway, and this is the most northerly of east-west canals in Britain, unusual in that it was built for coastal shipping. It was begun in 1803 because of the danger to naval ships from French privateers in the Napoleonic Wars. It took 19 years to complete, so it never fulfilled its purpose. But it was to provide the most magnificent inland navigation in the world, passing under Ben Nevis by the Great Glen, 60 miles from near Fort William to Inverness on the North Sea. The train to Mallig crosses the canal by a pivoting swing bridge. And it's not just an industrial monument. Every lock, and there's 29 of them, is mechanised for press-button operation. The most spectacular is the entry from Loch Linnhe by Neptune's staircase, rising 72 feet in 9 steps. Its builder was the great Thomas Telford. Today, trawlers, fishing boats, pleasure craft find it an invaluable passage for changing the North Sea to the Atlantic or vice versa, although it takes longer than a day to navigate. Corpach Sea Lock is 2 miles further on, and is one of the great viewpoints for appreciating the wee industrial town, producing aluminium, paper, and you see how the sea and land routes inland made Fort William important as a military garrison. Hence the fort. The William bit is for William of Orns, a nickname that stuck. Behind this western sea lock of the Caledonian Canal, the Mallig train makes its first stop at Corpach Station, where Loch Linnhe gives way to Lochiel, and just beyond it is the big square of the pulp and paper mill, which was momentous for the West Highland Railway and the Mallig extension. It came in 1966, just when the line was threatened with closure. But only the paper mill works at the moment, employing 453 and turning out 52,000 tonnes of high-quality paper a year. The pulp mill was sited in Lochiel because of its ease of supply. And for the same reason, the next 12 miles to the head of Lochiel was the easiest bit of the difficult Mallig line to construct. Lochiel was handy indeed for the construction of 17 miles of sea wall. salt water of Lochiel to the fresh water of lonely Lochiel, problems mounted, deep peaked and solid rock as the hills closed in dramatic scenery. This is Glenfinnan, and there's monuments here to two people who'll never be forgotten. This viaduct here was built by Concrete Bob, because the Mallig line was the first line where concrete was ever extensively used, and this was the first great problem, to put a viaduct across the Finnan River. 1,000 feet, 21 spans, each of 50 feet, 100 feet above the river. A great feat of work, and it's still standing absolutely solid. The other person who'll never be forgotten, Bonnie Prince Charlie. There's a monument there called the Highlanders Monument, and it's not the figure of Charlie that surmounts it. That's for the Highlanders who fought and died in this campaign. This is where Charlie raised the clans. Glenfinnan station sits high because it has to, and this is one of only two stations where the up train and the down train can pass. The other is on the sea coast at Arisaig. The line was never built for express trains. Driver Hugh Macbeth knows all about it.
Well, the speed restrictions with us, the lie of the line as it were, with corners and gradients, and we're restricted to 30 mile an hour from Mallig to Glenfinnan, and then 40 mile an hour from Glenfinnan to Fort William.
Now, what about these big engines that you're using? They seem to me to be very powerful.
Oh, they're very powerful. 1750 horsepower English electric, this one, yeah. More powerful than the steam locos.
And you drove them for 20 years?
Yes. You had to work with a steam engine, but not with this. You just sit and look out the window. My father had 47 years service when he finished.
And you've had 40?
40.
And you have a son with 13 years service?
That's right.
So between you, you've actually got more driving experience than the length of time that this line has been operating.
That's correct.
Well, you must feel you know every corner.
Oh yes, every bit of it now.
On a walk like this, the road and the railway are more or less obliged to take the same line. But when you're on your feet, you appreciate the changing moods of the weather. The clouds moving on the hills are so close to you, and that's one of the things I love. You never know what's going to happen. Sun, showers, mist veils forming and clearing. This road beside the railway was so bad before the war that many a car driver who risked it to Mallig put his machine back on the train to go back. It was a cyclist nightmare for potholes too. Absolutely roadless mountains stretched north and south of me from here. There are 11 tunnels in the 40 miles of the Mallig line, and compare that to the 100 miles to Fort William where there are only 2 tunnels. That shows the difficulty of this terrain. The dash into darkness here takes you out to Lochiel, where the road keeps to the north side of a narrow freshwater loch. And Lochiel is the last of the freshwater lochs. It borders the country of Moidart. When the railway was built, the density of people along its entire length was only 10 to each mile, so there was no hope of making much revenue from the local folk. It was the cattle and the sheep freight, and more importantly the fish trade for the southern markets, which was to keep the Mallig line in profit. That was the hope, but there's none of that freight today. Only tourism in summer keeps the line alive. Hence the reason for bringing back the observation coaches and having the courier's commentary on the background scenery.
While this line was being built between 1897 and 1901, Lochiel here had the largest navvy camp on the line, where 3,500 navvies were situated. The navvies lived in huts 40 navvies to each hut, and they did all their own cooking round a hot plate which was situated in the middle of their hut. Their favourite cooking utensil was their shovel, which they kept spotless.
At this peaceful spot above Loch Eilert, it's hard to imagine that big construction camp and thousands of men coming and going with their shovels. This wee kirk beside the railway was used as the model for the kirk in the feature film Local Hero. Originally, the railway was planned not to reach Malling, but to turn down Loch Eilert and reach the Sound of Arisaig from there. That plan had to be abandoned because of objections from the landowner, upheld by Parliament. So the coast of Moidart remained roadless until a tourist road was built in 1966. So, instead, the Malling line had to push further west into harder railway terrain, deeper into the lonely Jacobite country, becoming more spectacular by the mile. This is the real saltwater country now, the Arisaig coast, with history in every mile and the expectation of the Hebrides opening up before you, the route of escape for Bonnie Prince Charlie. This cairn marks the traditional spot from which Prince Charles Edward Stuart embarked for France, 20th September 1746. There's deep water here, it's Loch na Ua, the Loch of the Caves. And when Charlie got away from here, he'd done an amazing march from the centre of Scotland right through the wild mountains behind where the railway line is now to come to here and sail away safely. One of the most contrasty bits of the line is right here. I've climbed up to this wee rocky crest to see the train and watch it plunging below me into the longest tunnel on the line, 349 yards, with on its far side the steepest gradient of the line before it gets to Arisaig. I'm staying with the road because I don't want to miss this particular bit, a stretch to Borrowdale House, which must be one of the lushest wee passes in Scotland for flowering rhododendrons. It shows you what shelter does. It's almost Himalayan. It was a Borrowdale house that Prince Charlie first set foot on the Scottish mainland, and it was to this house he came after Culloden, tired out after the hardest walking of his life. Next to Borrowdale House is the grand Arisaig House, and not far below it on the shore is a famous cave where Bonnie Prince Charlie hid. This large estate had a private railway station to serve it called Beesdale. Ewan Macmillan is the farm manager, and so was his father before him. What kind of farming is done now, I wonder?
Mainly sheep. Yes, we have cattle, but sheep is the main project.
Is that a big estate?
A hill extending to about 11,000 acres.
High ground?
Yes, pretty high. You can see the highest of it out there behind the trees.
So you'll be a good walker?
I used to be. I'm getting old now.
So are we all, but you're looking pretty fit.
Well, I suppose this life keeps you fit, but no matter, old age catches up.
Arisaig station sits high, and being a place where trains can pass, it has to have signalmen on duty. And I always enjoy seeing the token system working, the Tyler patent train tablet system. The tablet is kept inside a machine, and no train can advance up or down the line until it gets the brass tablet that is kept inside. The tablet of polished brass is slipped into a leather purse, fixed to an oval arm loop for easy passing to a moving train. And until the tablet is handed over to the second man, the train can't proceed on the next section of line. And only the next station signalman can release the tablet, so it's impossible for two trains to meet each other on a single line. It was a chance at Arisaig to talk to observation coach courier Arlene Macmillan, who began her new job after leaving school only a few weeks ago. And did you write the script yourself that you do daily?
I did, yes. Well, with travelling back into 6 years now, till Harbour High School, I knew the line anyway, so it was easier for me to make it up than anybody else.
And you usually change it a bit every time you do it?
I don't think I change it. No, the line remains the same, so the commentary's the same. It maybe varies. But I enjoy the scenery. Even although I've done it for all these years, before the job, there's always something new.
The train is running due north now, passing Loch Morar, 1,077 feet deep, the deepest freshwater loch in Scotland, with its own monster called Morag, which has given a few anglers a fright. Look the other way and you have the silver sands of Morar, so beloved of holiday makers, the famous white sands. Strangely too, the Morar River that flows from the deepest freshwater loch in Scotland has the shortest course of any Scottish river, and it's good for salmon. The line crosses the Mallig Road just before Morar Station, so the train has to stop to let the second man down to close the road to traffic. And once the train gets through, the guard gets down and opens the gates to let road traffic resume. "6 minutes are allowed for opening and closing the gates. It's slow, but it's all part of the economy drive to reduce operating costs. The station itself, though, is unmanned. Morar Village is a very popular holiday centre with hotel and shop, and its station in the past won many awards for its flowers and the neat way it was kept. Today, Skye, a potter from Cornwall, uses the station as her workshop. How does it feel to be potting in this great ancient craft in what used to be the booking office of Weir Station?
It feels marvellous, yes. This is a beautiful setting. It's in the hub of the village. There's always people about, even in winter. I couldn't wish for a nicer place to be.
And you're a West Country person, so you don't really feel out of your element.
No. In fact, the coastline, particularly around Arizegwe, is very like Cornwall.
So you were working at home to begin with before you came here?
Yes, I was working in the garden shed. In fact, I kicked my husband out of the garden shed to be able to use it. He wasn't really too pleased.
So every day people are coming in, taking a look round and going away with something, is that it? In the summer?
Oh, no. Yes, but not all buy. far from it. Some people come in just look around. Even sometimes people come in to get out of the rain.
The Hebrides are close now, the island of Egg on the left and Rum on the right, known humorously as the Cocktail Isles. This is what the Glasgow Herald reported of the opening day. Now that the shrill sound of the railway whistle breaks the stillness of Morar and Mallaig, new glories of West Highland scenery are opened to the insatiable tourist. That was away back in 1901. But even with improved motor cars and a rebuilt road, it's still hard to beat the train time from Fort William to Mallaig today. So it's heartening that more and more motorists are deciding to enjoy the ride in the train for the scenery of the most thrilling 40 miles in Britain. It's a great choice to have. Well, this is a true end of the line, the Hebridean connection. If you want to go further west than Mallaig, it's got to go by boat. And when the first ships connected with the trains in 1901, they were heading for Stornoway and Skye. The first time an integrated transport service came from here. Before that, this was only a village of thatched roofs. It's a thriving place today, but the real joy of coming here is that journey through the hills, past the freshwater lochs, into the salt water, a changing mood every mile, and that's what I've had this marvellous few days.